Silence isn't empty. It's full of answers we're too restless to hear. But my dear friends, in a world that keeps shouting at us to run faster, talk louder, prove more, many of us feel exhausted, but confused, unsure of where life is taking us. Some of you are waiting for clarity, but some are waiting for healing. Some are waiting for that one opportunity that finally makes your life make sense. And sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do, PR, is simply stay silent. Not defeated .pr, not passive .pr, just grounded .pr, rooted, present .pr. Because in silence, life begins to reveal what noise has been hiding. Let me share with you 7 lessons that unfold like steps on a gentle path, guiding us to trust, to grow, and to receive naturally what is meant for us. Silence creates a space inside us that we rarely experience in our busy lives. We live in a world filled with constant noise, notifications, expectations, opinions, pressures, and endless streams of information trying to pull us in every direction. Most people respond to this noise by creating even more noise. We debate, we argue, we defend, we justify, we overthink, and in the chaos, the truth becomes harder and harder to see. But when we choose silence, something powerful begins to happen. The world doesn't suddenly change, but our perception of it does. In silence, the dust settles. In silence, the mind slows down just enough to allow clarity to surface naturally. Imagine standing near a lake. If you toss a stone into the water, the surface becomes disturbed, rippling in every direction. And if you keep throwing stones, it becomes impossible to see your own reflection. But if you stop, if you simply allow the water to rest undisturbed, slowly and without any force, the reflection returns. Life is exactly like that. Every fear, every doubt, every reaction is like a stone we keep throwing into our own mind. We disturb our own peace with unnecessary movement. But when we step back, when we allow the mind to settle in silence, the truth that was always present begins to reveal itself. Most of our suffering doesn't come from the situation we are facing, but from the way we are thinking about the situation. A problem becomes heavier when the mind is restless. A decision becomes harder when emotions are swirling. A relationship becomes more fragile when our words outrun our wisdom. Silence, however, allows us to see things as they are, not as fear paints them, not as ego distorts them, not as insecurity exaggerates them. Silence is the pure lens through which truth finally becomes visible. There is a story of a young man who approached a wise teacher, complaining that his life felt confusing and directionless. He asked for advice, expecting a long explanation. Instead, the teacher led him to a pool of water and stirred it with a stick until it became cloudy. "What do you see?" the teacher asked. "Nothing. The water Too muddy," the young man replied. The teacher waited. Minutes passed quietly. Eventually, the water settled, and the young man could see his reflection again. "Now what do you see?" the teacher asked. "I see myself clearly," the young man said. The teacher smiled gently. "When the mind is disturbed, you see nothing clearly. But in silence, clarity reveals itself without you forcing it." This is how life works. We believe that thinking harder will give us the answers. We believe that reacting faster will give us control. We believe that speaking louder will help us be heard. Yet the opposite is true. When the mind is calm, thoughts become more organized. When emotions settle, decisions become wiser. When we speak from silence, our words carry more weight. Silence is not emptiness, it is alignment. It aligns the heart and mind so that we can move with intention instead of impulse. Practicing silence doesn't mean avoiding conversations or isolating ourselves. It simply means choosing to pause before responding. It means understanding that not every question needs an immediate answer. It means allowing our inner world to breathe before we add more noise to it. Sometimes the best thing we can do is step away from a heated moment, take a walk, breathe deeply, and let silence do the work that force never can. In silence, We begin to hear things we were too distracted to notice. We hear our intuition, a voice that speaks gently but truthfully. We hear our conscience reminding us of what matters. We hear the whispers of wisdom that were buried beneath layers of worry and panic. Silence is a spiritual reset button. It reconnects us with ourselves. It reconnects us with clarity. It reconnects us with the greater purpose that our fears often drown out. When we cultivate silence, we create space for solutions to emerge on their own. We begin to understand that answers don't always come from searching outside. They often rise from within, when the noise of the world fades and the calmness of the heart expands. And in that still space, we discover that the answers were never missing. They were simply waiting for us to be quiet enough to hear them. Our silence is not passive, it is powerful. It is strength under control, wisdom in practice, and clarity in motion. When you allow yourself to pause, reflect, and breathe, life begins to reveal what noise has been hiding all along. And in that gentle unveiling, you find direction, purpose, and truth, naturally, effortlessly, and beautifully. There is a quiet kind of strength that most people never learn to cultivate, because we live in a world where loudness is mistaken for confidence and constant talking is mistaken for intelligence. From childhood, many of us were taught that the one who speaks the most is the one who wins. We learn to defend ourselves instantly, respond instantly, and prove ourselves instantly because silence was seen as weakness. But as we grow older, we realize that strength isn't measured by how loudly we roar, but by how deeply we understand ourselves. Strength is not the noise you make, strength is the peace you refuse to lose. Or consider the lion. It is the king of the jungle, not because it makes the most noise, but because of its calm and steady presence. It does not roar before every hunt. It does not need to announce its power. Its confidence comes from knowing itself, not from convincing others. In the same way, an eagle rises higher, not by flapping its wings frantically, but by gliding in silence, letting the winds lift it. True strength is quiet. True strength is composed. True strength does not need to be validated by noise. When someone provokes you, the world teaches you to react. When someone disrespects you, the ego pushes you to respond immediately. But the strongest person in the room is not the one whose voice grows louder, it is the one whose heart grows steadier. The one who can pause, the one who can choose their response instead of being controlled by the situation. Silence is self-mastery, the ability to stand in the middle of chaos and remain internally anchored. People often associate silence with suppression, but silence is far from suppressing your power. Silence is channeling your power. When you choose not to react, it doesn't mean you are incapable, it means you are in control. You refuse to let someone else's behavior dictate your emotional state. It means you are strong enough to hold back when your ego wants to explode and wise enough to wait until your clarity returns. Think of a seasoned martial artist. They don't jump into every fight. They move only when necessary. They conserve energy. They respond with precision. Their power lies not in constant motion, but in disciplined stillness. Life works the same way. Not every comment deserves your reaction. Not every insult deserves your energy. Not every battle deserves your presence. Silence also helps us recognize the difference between reaction and response. Reaction is emotional, impulsive, and often regrettable. Response is thoughtful, calm, and rooted in awareness. Silence creates the gap between the two. It gives you the space to breathe, reflect, and understand before you act. The more silent you become internally, the more intentional you become externally. There are three kinds of strength that silence cultivates. The first is emotional strength, the ability to stay steady even when emotions rise. When someone tries to hurt you or provoke you, your silence protects you from being controlled by their behavior. It separates your dignity from their chaos. The second is mental strength, the clarity to see situations without distortion. Silence filters out the unnecessary noise so you can think logically instead of emotionally. It helps you see the bigger picture, not just the heat of the moment. The third is spiritual strength, the awareness that not every fight is yours and not every argument is worth winning. There is peace that grows inside you when you realize that your value is not measured by how loudly you defend yourself, but by how firmly you stand in your truth. Strong people do not react to everything because they know their peace is precious. They know their energy is sacred. They know that every minute spent explaining themselves to the wrong person is a minute taken away from their purpose. Silence becomes their shield, not because they fear conflict, but because they choose peace over unnecessary chaos. Many people will misunderstand your silence. Some will think you are weak. Some will think you have nothing to say. Some will think they have defeated you because you chose not to argue. Let them think what they want. Your strength does not depend on their understanding. Your power does not shrink because someone else cannot see it. Silence allows you to rise above the noise of judgment and become unshakably grounded in who you are. The more you practice silent strength, the more you will notice something beautiful. Things that used to disturb you lose their power. Words that once hurt deeply become insignificant. Situations that once triggered you no longer shake you. You begin to realize that silence is not the absence of strength. Silence is the evolution of strength. It is the mark of someone who has grown beyond the need to prove, defend, or react. It is the mark of someone who has found their inner kingdom. Quiet, steady, and deeply powerful. There are moments in life when emotions rise so quickly that they take control of everything. Our voice, our decisions, our relationships, our peace. In those moments, wisdom seems to disappear. It's almost as if emotion and wisdom cannot occupy the same space at the same time. When emotions rise, wisdom falls. This truth is something we all experience, yet we rarely pause to understand it deeply. Emotions are not the enemy. Uncontrolled emotions are. And silence becomes the bridge that brings our emotions back to balance so that wisdom can return and guide us. Think about the last time you reacted out of anger. The words you spoke, the decisions you made, the tone you used, were they aligned with your best self? Probably not. Anger has a way of convincing us that we must respond immediately. Fear has a way of making us believe the worst. Ego has a way of making us defend things that don't even matter. And in that heated moment, the mind becomes clouded, just like a stormed sky where you cannot see even a single star. Wisdom is still there, but it becomes hidden behind the thunder of emotion. Imagine a cup of hot water. If you drop tea leaves into it and stir aggressively, the water becomes dark and chaotic. But if you leave it undisturbed, the waves settle and release their flavor gradually. The stillness brings out the essence. The same happens with the mind. When we stir it with anger, impatience, jealousy, or insecurity, everything becomes unclear. But when we stay silent, when we allow a pause between stimulus and response, the mind begins to settle naturally. And clarity, like the true flavor of tea, starts to emerge. We often believe that emotional reactions show strength, that defending ourselves instantly proves our confidence. But more often than not, quick reactions only reveal our lack of control. True strength lies in choosing not to react, in holding yourself steady even when your emotions are begging you to explode. It takes far more strength to remain silent than to lash out. Anyone can react. Anyone can raise their voice. But not everyone has the discipline to pause. Think of a parent who yells at a child in anger. Later they regret it. Not because they didn't care, but because they cared too much and let emotion overpower judgment. Think of a couple who says hurtful things in the heat of an argument. Later, when emotions settle, they realize the pain their words caused. Think of the employee who quits impulsively or the friend who blocks someone in frustration. These decisions, made in emotional storms, often lead to consequences that outlast the moment. That is the danger of acting before calming the heart. Silence is not about suppressing emotions. It is about giving emotions space to breathe. It is about sitting with them long enough to understand them instead of reacting to them. When someone says something hurtful, silence allows you to ask yourself, why did this hurt me? Is it their intention or my insecurity? Is this worth my peace? When a situation triggers fear, silence helps you differentiate between what is real and what is imagined. When ego rises, silence gives you the humility to step back and see the bigger picture. Er. In silence, wisdom returns. It reminds you that not everything deserves your reaction. It reminds you that anger is temporary, but consequences are not. It reminds you that your peace is worth more than winning an argument. It reminds you that choosing calmness is not weakness, it is maturity. Emotion is like fire. Controlled, it gives warmth. Uncontrolled, it burns everything. Silence is the boundary that keeps the fire from spreading. It is the cooling breath that prevents damage. It is the gentle pause that protects relationships, preserves dignity, and prepares the heart to respond from understanding rather than from impulse. Sometimes silence teaches us that the problem we thought was huge is actually small. Sometimes it shows us that the person we were angry at was not attacking us, they were hurting themselves. Sometimes it reveals that the fear we felt was exaggerated by our imagination. Silence becomes the mirror that reflects truth back to us. Not the dramatized truth shaped by emotion, but the calm truth shaped by clarity. And when wisdom returns, your response becomes powerful. Not because it is loud, but because it is aligned with your higher self. A calm voice carries more authority than a shouted one. A thoughtful response carries more impact than a quick reaction. A grounded mind makes decisions that build your future, not ones that break it. In mastering silence during emotional storms, you learn one of the greatest truths of life. You cannot control what others do, but you can always control how you choose to respond. When emotions rise and wisdom falls, silence lifts wisdom back to its rightful place. And in that moment, you reclaim your peace, your strength, and your true self. We live in a world where everyone is chasing something: opportunities, relationships, recognition, success, security, validation. From morning till night, our minds run faster than our feet ever could. We fear falling behind, we fear missing out, we fear that if we don't chase constantly, life will leave us behind. But there is a quiet truth woven into the very fabric of existence: what is meant for you will not pass you. Life may test you, delay you, stretch you, and refine you, but it will not deny you what is truly yours. And the more you learn to trust this truth, the more peacefully you begin to walk through life. Think of a fruit on a tree. No matter how much you shake the branches, the fruit will only fall when it is ripe. You could force it, but what falls prematurely is sour, bitter, and incomplete. The sweetness comes only with time, warmth, and patience. Many of the blessings in our lives are like that fruit. We want them now. We want certainty now. We want success now. We want answers now. But life, like nature, moves at a divine pace, not at the speed of our impatience. When we stop trying to rush what isn't ready, we begin to understand that delay is not denial, it is preparation. We often think chasing faster will bring us what we want sooner. But in the process of running, we forget to prepare. We forget to grow. We forget that receiving something before we have the capacity to hold it can be more damaging than not receiving it at all. A relationship that comes too early may break you. A success you're unprepared for may crush you. An opportunity you haven't grown into may overwhelm you. Life is not just about getting what you desire. It is about becoming who you need to be in order to carry what you desire responsibly. When you trust the timing of your life, you begin to let go of frantic energy. You stop comparing your journey to others. You stop measuring your worth by someone else's progress. You stop believing that speed determines success. A seed takes time to break open. A flower takes time to bloom. A tree takes time to grow roots deep enough to stand tall through storms. And why you, too, are unfolding in a season perfectly aligned with your soul's development. There is a profound peace that comes when you stop chasing and start preparing. When you shift from fear to faith. When you start believing that life is not happening against you, but for you. even when the timing confuses you. Sometimes the doors that close are protecting you. Sometimes the opportunities that slip away are redirecting you. Sometimes the silence you receive from the world is the space in which your character is being shaped. Life is wiser than we are. God sees further than we can. But imagine running desperately after a butterfly. The more you chase it, the further it flies. But if you stand still, if you remain calm, something magical happens. The butterfly may land on your shoulder by itself. Not because you forced it, but because your stillness invited it. Many of the blessings you seek work the same way. They come when you are quiet enough to receive them, mature enough to appreciate them, and grounded enough to hold them. Trusting life's timing does not mean you stop working. It does not mean you become passive or complacent. It means you do your part with sincerity and let life do its part with wisdom. You plant the seeds. Life brings the rain. You nurture your gifts. Life brings the opportunities. You prepare your heart. Life brings the right people. You learn discipline. Life brings breakthroughs. When you begin to trust this rhythm, anxiety loses its grip on you. You stop waking up with the urgency to catch up. Instead, you wake up with gratitude for the season you're in. You begin to understand that every waiting period is not wasted time but sacred time. Time where you're being shaped, strengthened, and refined for what's coming. And here is the beautiful truth. What is meant for you will never require you to destroy your peace to obtain it. It will not require begging. It will not require competing with your integrity. It will not require losing yourself in the process. What is meant for you will arrive with a sense of alignment, peace, and purpose. Even if it's challenging, it will feel right. When you finally receive it, you will realize the timing was perfect, that the delays were divine, that the doors that didn't open were blessings in disguise, that the seasons of silence were seasons of preparation, that everything arrived exactly when it was meant to, not when you demanded it, but when you were ready for it. This is the gentle wisdom that settles into your heart. When you learn to trust, you don't have to chase what is yours. You simply have to become the version of yourself who can hold it. And life, in its own miraculous way, will deliver it right on time. Listening is one of the greatest gifts we can offer to the world. Yet, it is also one of the most neglected. Most people hear, but very few truly listen. We listen to reply, to defend, to interrupt, to prove our point, or to protect our ego. But when we listen from stillness, when we listen from silence, we begin to understand not just words but hearts. And the quality of our listening shapes the quality of our relationships, our decisions, and our inner peace. Silence sharpens our ability to listen. When the mind is quiet, we begin to notice distinctions we otherwise miss. The tone behind someone's words, the emotion behind their silence, the intention behind their actions. Listening becomes less about responding and more about understanding. And understanding is what heals misunderstandings, strengthens connections, and deepens love. Consider a simple moment. Someone is sharing their pain with you. If your mind is busy preparing your response, you won't hear them. If you're listening through the lens of your judgment, you won't understand them. But if you enter silence, if you allow yourself to be present, you begin to feel what they feel. Their words are no longer just sounds, they become windows into their heart. In this way, silence becomes compassion. Listening becomes service.ur. There is so much noise in the world today that people rarely feel truly heard. Many people speak loudly because they have spent years being ignored. Many express anger because their pain has been dismissed. Many act out because their silent cries were never acknowledged. When you listen deeply, you become a source of healing, not by offering solutions, but by offering presence. Sometimes the greatest medicine is not advice, it is being heard. But listening is not just about others, it is also about listening to ourselves. Within us exists a voice that is constantly guiding, warning, nudging, encouraging. We call it intuition, conscience, inner wisdom. Yet we seldom hear it because the noise of anxiety, fear, and expectation speaks louder. Silence allows us to reconnect with this inner guide. It helps us hear the quiet instructions we were too distracted to notice. When you truly listen to yourself, you begin to understand what your heart is aching for and what your soul is tired of tolerating. You recognize which relationships drain you and which nourish you. You notice which dreams excite you and which obligations suffocate you. Listening to yourself is the foundation of self-respect, and silence gives you the space to hear the truth without distortion. Once you develop the art of listening, you naturally begin to speak with intention. Your words are no longer reactions, they become responses. They are not thrown impulsively, they are placed carefully. You begin to understand the weight of your words, how they can heal or hurt, uplift or discourage, build or break. Silence teaches you to respect the power of your voice. Bibar, think of an archer. Before releasing the arrow, they pause, they breathe, they align their posture, they aim. Their silence determines the accuracy of their shot. In the same way, when you speak from silence, your words become arrows of clarity, purpose, and truth. You don't speak to impress, you speak to express something meaningful. You don't speak to dominate, you speak to contribute. The world needs more thoughtful voices, voices that arise from understanding rather than ego, voices that inspire rather than provoke, voices that soothe rather than inflame. The world needs people who listen deeply and speak gently. Many conflicts could be avoided if people listened. Many relationships could be saved if hearts learned to understand before reacting. Many opportunities could be recognized if we listened to our intuition instead of our fears. Many mistakes could be prevented if we listened to wisdom instead of impulse. Bibar, listening is humility in action. It is the willingness to say, your perspective matters, your feelings matter, your truth matters, and when you offer someone the gift of listening, you offer them dignity. You let them know they are valued. You create a space where trust can grow. And when you listen to yourself with the same sincerity, you create a life aligned with your inner truth. Your decisions become intentional, your relationships become authentic, your journey becomes meaningful. In a world obsessed with speaking, choose to be someone who listens. In a world filled with noise, choose to be someone who creates silence. Because the quieter you become, the more wisdom you hear, both from others and from within yourself. And when you finally speak from that place of understanding, your words will carry a power that noise can never replicate. They will carry the weight of truth, the warmth of empathy, and the depth of a soul that has learned to listen before it speaks. There comes a time in life when we finally realize that not everything deserves our energy. Not every argument deserves our voice. Not every conflict deserves our presence. We begin to understand that peace is not something we stumble upon. It is something we protect, guard, and preserve with intention. Silence becomes one of the greatest protectors of that peace. It shields our mind from unnecessary chaos, our heart from unnecessary wounds, and our spirit from unnecessary battles. Energy is one of the most precious currencies in life. Every thought we entertain, every conversation we engage in, every emotional reaction we give away, it all costs energy. And yet many of us spend our energy carelessly, pouring it into conflicts that do not serve us, into people who do not value us, or into situations that drain us more than they grow us. Silence is the boundary that reminds us not every fight is mine to fight. But when someone tries to provoke you, silence becomes your shield. It doesn't mean you are powerless. It means you are powerful enough to walk away. It means you have reached a level of maturity where you no longer allow external noise to disturb your internal stability. The more silent you become in the face of negativity, the more you conserve the emotional energy needed for the things that truly matter. Think about your phone. When the battery is low, you don't open unnecessary apps, you don't watch videos, and you don't run multiple programs. You become selective because you know you have limited energy left. Why do we understand this with technology but forget it with our own hearts? Our emotional battery requires the same care. Silence is how we stop draining ourselves on things that rob our inner power. Some people thrive on conflict. They throw harsh words, hoping to provoke a reaction. They want you to argue, defend, or explain yourself. Every time you react, you feed their chaos. But when you remain silent, their fire loses oxygen. Not because you're weak, but because you refuse to participate in drama that steals your peace. Your silence becomes a message in itself. It communicates dignity, self control, and wisdom. There is a kind of strength in silence that loudness can never imitate. Silence says, I value my peace more than I value being right. Silence says, I choose my growth over winning a pointless argument. Silence says, your opinion cannot shake my self-worth. Silence becomes a form of self-respect, and it's not just about protecting yourself from others, it's also about protecting yourself from your own negative patterns. Silence helps you break the cycle of overthinking, reacting impulsively, or over-explaining. How many times have we exhausted ourselves trying to justify our decisions to people who were never willing to understand in the first place? How many times have we wasted sleepless nights replaying conversations that had no purpose? Silence teaches us to stop giving our energy to things that do not contribute to our peace or purpose. Imagine standing on the shore while waves crash violently against the rocks. The sea is loud, chaotic, unrelenting. But beneath the surface, in the depths, everything is calm, still, quiet. Your life will always have surface level waves, people's opinions, their behavior, unexpected challenges, emotional storms, but silence allows you to live from the depth rather than the surface. It helps you descend from turmoil into tranquility. Energy protection also means knowing when to walk away. Walking away is not a sign of defeat. Sometimes it is the most powerful thing you can do. You are not abandoning the situation. You are choosing not to let it consume you. You are choosing peace over ego, clarity over chaos, and growth over stubbornness. Silence gives you the courage to let go of what drains you so you can make space for what strengthens you. When you begin to value your energy, you naturally become more selective. You choose who you allow into your circle. You choose what conversat ions you invest in. You choose what thoughts you entertain. You choose which battles are worth fighting. And you choose silence as your guardian. Not every person deserves access to your emotional world. Not every criticism deserves a response. Not every situation demands your involvement. Silence becomes your filter. It helps you separate what is important from what is irrelevant, what is nourishing from what is draining, what is purposeful from what is pointless. And slowly, something beautiful begins to happen. Life becomes lighter. Your heart feels freer. Your mind becomes clearer. Because when you protect your energy through silence, you stop carrying burdens that were never yours to carry. You start saving your strength for the things that align with your destiny, your growth, and your peace. Silence is not emptiness, it is intentional conservation. It is choosing to rise above noise, chaos, and negativity. It is protecting the sacred energy you need to build the life you desire. And when you master this, you discover a truth that changes everything. Peace is not something you find. It is something you create, protect, and defend with every silent step you take. There are seasons in life when everything seems quiet. Nothing moves, nothing changes. Prayers feel unanswered, opportunities feel delayed, progress feels invisible. In these moments, silence can feel like emptiness. It can feel like abandonment. It can feel like nothing is happening at all. But the truth is far more comforting and far more powerful. In silence, God works. In silence, life arranges itself in ways you cannot yet see. In silence, blessings take shape beneath the surface. Think of a seed buried in the soil. From above, it looks like nothing is happening. There is no movement, no sign of growth, no visible progress. But beneath the earth, something miraculous is taking place. The seed is splitting open, roots are forming, strength is being built. It is preparing for a life above ground where everyone can see it. But the real growth, the essential growth, happens in silence, hidden from the world. Your journey is no different. There are moments when God hides His work, not to discourage you, but to protect you. Some blessings need silence to grow. Some breakthroughs need darkness to prepare. Some transformations require a season of invisibility. You may not see the progress while you're in it, but that doesn't mean progress isn't happening. Silence is not the absence of movement. It is the space where divine movement begins. We often confuse silence with stillness, stillness with stagnation, and stagnation with failure. But each of these things means something very different. Stagnation is the absence of growth. Stillness is the presence of peace. Silence is the incubation of purpose. When life goes silent, it is rarely punishing you, it is shaping you. It is crafting the vision of you who will be able to hold the blessings that are on their way. There is a story of a craftsman who carved intricate statues out of wood. Before he began carving, he would sit for hours in silence, simply looking at the piece of wood. When someone asked him why he wasn't working, he said, "I am working. The shape is speaking to me. I must listen before I carve." Life too listens before it shapes you. It examines, prepares, molds, and arranges before revealing anything externally. And that process requires silence. Sometimes the silence you experience is God rearranging your path, removing the wrong people, closing the wrong doors, protecting you from disappointments you don't yet understand. Sometimes silence is the universe's way of saying, "Rest now, something bigger is coming, and you need your strength." Sometimes silence is the pause before the miracle, the breath before the breakthrough, the preparation before the revelation. There is a deep comfort in knowing that God does His finest work without announcing it. He does not need noise to perform miracles. He does not need visibility to create destiny. The greatest shifts in your life will often happen quietly, so quietly that you may not even recognize them while they are unfolding. But one day something will change. A door will open, a person will arrive, a moment will align, and suddenly everything will make sense. You'll see why the wait was necessary, why the silence was divinely timed, why the delay was protection, why the path had to bend before it straightened. You'll see that nothing was wasted. Bad no tear, that bow no prayer, but bear no effort, but dr no silent night of confusion. Everything was contributing to a future you could not yet imagine. Br. When life is silent, stay faithful. Trust that God is orchestrating what you cannot see. Trust that the unseen is often more powerful than the seen. Trust that the roots being formed in silence will one day hold the tree that carries your purpose. And silence doesn't mean you stop living. It means you stop forcing, you stop panicking, you stop rushing, you stop trying to control every outcome. You learn to breathe in the unknown with a little more trust and a little less fear. You learn to walk by faith, not by sight. You learn to surrender, not as defeat, but as confidence in a plan greater than your own. When God works in silence, He works thoroughly, He works deeply, He works lovingly. And when the time is right, when your spirit is ready, when your path is clear, when your blessing is matured, He reveals everything, not a moment earlier, not a moment later. So if your life feels quiet right now, if you feel like your prayers are echoing back empty, if you feel unseen, unheard, unsure, remember, silence is not God withholding. Silence is God preparing. Silence is God aligning. Silence is God weaving threads you cannot yet recognize. And 1D, when everything unfolds, you look back at the silent seasons with gratitude. Not because they were easy, but because they were essential. Without them, you wouldn't have grown roots strong enough to hold the blessings that waited for you. But silence is not nothing. Silence is God at work. My dear friends, when life feels loud, choose silence. When your heart feels heavy, choose trust. When the path feels uncertain, choose faith. Because the one who created you has not forgotten you. He is shaping you in the quiet, strengthening you in the stillness, and preparing you in the silence. Walk gently, walk humbly, walk faithfully, and watch how everything meant for you begins to arrive in its perfect time. Not by chasing, not by forcing, but by becoming. Remember always, life unfolds peacefully for the soul that learns to be still.